Hi, I am Gabriel Dirksen, and this is my Module 1 for School Law 850 EDL. My name is Gabriel Dirksen. I have taught 6 years of grade school elementary at La Crosse Elementary. I'm a 5th and 6th grade math and science teacher. I co-op teach with another, and she teaches reading and social studies. And we tackle our daily classrooms together, switching between each other to kind of master our own craft in the aspects we do. I've also been a coach at La Crosse for 5 years. I have volunteered for the high school. I'm the head middle school football coach, and I recently gave up my assistant girls basketball coaching job to my wife, who played basketball for 4 years at Sterling College. I graduated from Sterling College with an elementary education degree, and I went to La Crosse straight out of college, and I've been here ever since. My wife is also a teacher in our schools. She graduated as an athletic trainer, and since we're living in a small town of La Crosse, she has started her transition to teaching as a junior high science teacher. So it's kind of nice to have the same schedule and be working in the same school district, to have the same breaks and whatnot. It's been very beneficial for our lives. Um, we got married 3 years ago. We do live in La Crosse. We are expecting our first child due in July. July 24th is the due date. And so that's kind of exciting. I'm working on my master's to pursue administration in the future. A few of the hobbies I like are hunting and fishing, something I do in my free time. Both my parents are in education. My dad is a superintendent of schools at Dodge City. My mother is a special education teacher, and two of my sisters are teachers in Dodge. So I've been surrounded by education my entire life, and I kind of grew up knowing nothing else, and I have enjoyed my role as a mentor of young people and the success and satisfaction I get out of helping them in their daily lives. My father is a good role model. He works with the governor on a education council, and has inspired me to pursue administration and maybe farther down the road, as he has been a superintendent for 20 years now. Um, Levels of government and public education. Support from the three levels of government. The local donate to support school programs and events like local businesses and things like that. The local government, they have taxes and bond issues that get passed that support the local school districts. The public elected school board is elected to monitor and patrol the things the school are doing, and to make sure all of our schools are funding and allocate different avenues down there and higher, and everything a school board is in charge of. The state is, you get state aid funding per pupil. State funds about half of schools' operations. They fund Common Core and state standards. We as Kansas are under the Common Core standards that we have to meet, and that is what our state testing, when due to COVID we didn't take it, or before the testing center or the testing element of KITE wasn't as fluent a few years past, but it did exactly do it the last 2 years. So when the Common Core standards can be tested, that's what we're trying to meet. The federal, we have federal grants we can apply for funding. Federal contributor is about 8% to schools, and the funding. Make sure education as a whole is the U.S. meets standards compared to other nations, and so we can be adequate to have students being sustaining their professions when they get done with high school, whether that's college or joining the workforce. Leadership in levels of government. Local, the board of education. We have a board of education. They are elected, and the superintendent is a paid position that is in charge of the school, but he answers to the board of education. State, they are bolded because that is who I see has the most, who is in charge the most, or who has the most persuasion over the local schools. We have a state legislator. The Kansas Board of Education is elected. The Commissioner, Randy Watson, who does a great job for education, is a paid position. And a good friend of my father's, Dale Dennis, is the Deputy Commissioner. He has been in education a long time. He is also a paid position that has a lot to do with our financial standpoint. of Education does a great job in his position, and the Kansas governor elected. And then federal, the U.S. Department of Education, Betsy DeVos, and she is in charge of that. Who's in charge? The component one, I've stated, was local to evaluate, develop, and implement management communications technology of school level governance. That is where your local superintendent and board of education come into play, that they are making sure the teachers in their building and their district are doing the things that meet the student learning needs and promote a mission and a vision of the school. That is what your local superintendent, principals, and school board would be in charge of. The state, they're kind of come in the component two. They advocate for data-informed decisions, kind of where our Common Core standards would come into play. Equitable resourcing plan that supports school improvements and student development. So they're just kind of overseeing that, making sure we are doing the right thing to be successful within the state and keep ourselves on top of the leaderboard for students going out into the real world and make sure they have the skills and necessity to be successful in the environment they choose to go towards. And then the federal government, they're kind of coming in the component 6.3, implement laws, rights, procedures, and regulations to promote student and adult success and well-being. They kind of give out the framework for what we need to follow. And then the local government, the state government, they do a lot to mandate that we are doing what we need to do at a local level, and then to make sure the local is in charge of their certain school. But the state government has a lot of control, and the state funding we get is a large portion of how schools are funded. And so we have to do a lot of things to meet state standards and other resources like that, so we can be as successful as we can to have the students achieve the most that they can in their respective occupations. Education and well-being of students. The federal government has the Every Child Succeeds Act, or every student, it should say Every Student Succeeds Act. It was remembered from the No Child Left Behind back, but making sure that every student succeeds, no matter what that looks like. If that's going to college and getting a degree or joining the workforce. The Common Core standards, that is to help make sure every student succeeds and that we are meeting the needs that we need to meet at a school. The high school is taking on more pathways and realizing that college is not for everyone, and giving people pathways that they can start taking in high school, whether that's shop or welding or electrical, plumbing, and making sure that they have different pathways that are going to be good resources for them to start professions in the real world that make them a successful contributor and part of society. Wanting all students to be successful in the real world environment they choose, and that's what the pathways help do. And that is my reference. So thank you and have a good day.